All right, again, just really quickly so that we are all on the same page. In the chat box, can you just type the word yes if you can see the slideshow?
Louise can't see or hear anything. Right. I don't know what to suggest.
Jane, I think that you've just joined us. If you can see the slideshow and hear us, can you please just type yes into the text box, the chat box?
It's just unmute. Okay, thanks, Jane. Louise, Gabby has suggested that you switch to the desktop version so that you can see and hear us. I think, shall we make a start once Louise sorts out her technical problems?
Yep. Sounds good. So we're going to go ahead and make a start. I know that Louise is still working to try to resolve her technical issue. Yep.
Okay, let's start.
All right.
Okay, well, everyone, welcome to session 3. We have muted your mics and we've turned off your webcams. This just saves on the bandwidth. So if you have got any questions or you've got a point to raise, then please either raise your hand or put something in the chat box.
I also wanted to remind everybody that we will be recording this session and that both the archive of the session as well as the chat record will be available for you to reference when the session is over. All right. So in opening session 3, I just wanted to recap quickly where we have been so far. In session 1, we were focusing on the question, what is action research? In session 2, we focused on what is the problem I'm trying to address? And in this session, we're going to be looking at the question, what does existing research say about my research question? And as a bit of a preview, in session 4, we're going to be looking at organizing and writing a literature review. Specifically, we're going to be looking at writing an annotated bibliography and the mechanics of writing a literature review. You won't actually write a literature review as part of this online course unless you choose to do so. But what we hope to do in the next session is actually follow on what we're going to be touching on in this session and give you the mechanics for how to do that. In the course, one of the things that you will have noticed is that there are no kind of assessments built in. There are no formal assessments. We're not going to collect your work at any time and evaluate your work. But what we're hoping that you're doing is that you're using these big framing guiding questions from each of the session to kind of ask yourself, you know, if you were given this question on in an assessment, could you actually answer it? Could you give examples? And we're encouraging you to do this continuous self-assessment of the material as we go through. Because, as I said, we won't be doing any formal assessments as part of this course. We're going to open up right away, again, just to kind of get you warmed up and to make sure that everybody's technology is working. We have a question. What have you learned this past week? Either something you learned through your work in school, something you've learned outside. If you would go ahead and just type your responses into the chat box, please.
They're sort of coming in thick and fast now. Tom, I was at a science conference 4 days ago, so I learned tons. Wow. How to print PDF documents from Sim. Where are we? Okay, Shabana. It is situation-based and content-specific. Yes. Parent-teacher conferences the last 2 days. Yeah, here at Cobham there have been parent-teacher conferences. So I've learned all of us as parents and educators want the same thing, that our child feels comfortable and happy in the school setting. Do you want to be
Yep, and Kelly says, I learned how to apply Capco easy covers to paperback books to prolong their shelf life. Ruslan said that he's learned that March 24th is the Arabic Mother's Day.
Oh, wow. We've just had the UK Mother's Day this Sunday just gone.
Sunday.
So I'm not buying my mum another present this weekend. Lisa.
And Lisa noted that she learned a lot about food waste as they plan their community week for next week. And Shabana said that she volunteered for Family Fun Day, and having been there, that's always a kind of a learning on the hoof kind of task and challenge. And Jane said, I've been away on a Power of Language conference, plurilingualism in international schools. All right, thank you for all that. And again, just as a reminder of who the other people are on the course with you, the class roster, today you may have noticed that Dawn isn't with us. Dawn sends her apologies. She'd had a prior commitment prior to the start of the course, and that's where she is this afternoon. So other than Dawn, we're all here this afternoon. We're going to open this week's session with a very quick poll because I think it's always useful for Latifa and I to understand your past experiences and what how much experience you've had with the topics that we're covering. So I'm going to turn it over to Latifa. The question is, have you used an online database search for to search the academic literature? So Latifa has turned the poll on. If you want to go ahead and respond.
So people have started to respond, and So
89% have said yes, 11% or 10%, actually 90% yes, 10% no.
Okay, so that's
fantastic. So most of you have done that. So
okay, I'm going to close it now.
In that case, I'm going to apologize in advance if we repeat things that you may already know. We are going to be showing you how to use several different online databases, including probably one that you may not have used, two that you're very likely to have used before. But we did want to do this to make sure that, just as a leveling piece, that we all understood how to use online databases to find academic literature. So in a moment, Latifa is going to walk you through how to use the IOE database at the University of London. I'll apologize in advance to our Qatar-based colleagues because in order to use this database, you do physically have to go to the library. One of the reasons that we try to establish partnerships at SIM is to actually expand the resources that are available to teachers in our schools and especially to people who are engaged with us on action research projects. And through our membership with the Research and Development Network at the IOE, we do have access to their school library and use of their electronic database. I'm going to show you just a really quick video on how to use ERIC, and ERIC is probably a tool that many of you have used before. Certainly, I would expect that everyone who responded yes has used Google Scholar, either themselves or with students. And I know that some of you may think of that as more of a search engine for students to use to do research projects. But in fact, it does have a lot of academic literature that will be more relevant to teachers than to students. So with that brief introduction, I'm going to turn over to Latifa, who's going to talk to you about using the IOE database. And again, for our Doha colleagues, I apologize that you won't be able to use this one in person. But if you actually found specific things that were in it, Latifa and I do go to the IOE regularly, so we're happy to look things up for you while we're there.
Okay. Right, so as Ben mentioned, that as members of the IOE Research and Development Network, we have access to their library of online resources. Their library is still being built, so sometimes you may hit a dead end, but it's always worth coming back because the next time that you try to do the same search, you may actually find a result. Okay, so to access the website, the library, you need to go to www.ioe-rdnetwork.com. And I will email this website to you together with the login details when I sent out the checkout survey this week. So you will be prompted to log in, and as you can see, there's a login option in the menu. So you click on the login and the login box will appear. We have one single login for ACS and it's user based. So the login is under my name, but I will share that with you when I send out the checkout survey later today. So you log in as you would to any website and you just put in your details and then you click login. And now you can start your search. So you go to the members area, and from the members area, you would click on engage with research. And from there, you can go to online research sources. So there are two areas that you would go to, online research sources and library resources, and I'll talk you through both of those now. So the online research sources takes you to a bank of external resources that the IOE has access to, such as the National Foundation for Education Research, NFER, which provides resources to support research in schools. This guide summarises evidence-informed practice, associated benefits, and how to develop a culture of evidence-informed practice. It's a very good website to go to if you're looking for papers and you're looking for evidence as to why your question is important. The other sites that it offers is the National Literacy Trust, Research Councils UK, the Education Evidence Portal, Education Data Lab, etc. So for this, there are no additional logins. You can just click on the URLs that are shown here, and you can go straight to it. So I'm going to bring up a pen so that I can highlight some of those. Oh, sorry, I've crossed it out, but you get my point. Okay. And then to get to the library resources, again, you would click on members area, engage with research, and then library resources. And from here, it takes you to the R&D network, the Research and Development Network. And halfway down the page, you will see a box that says access the R&D Network LibGuide. And by clicking here, you can then enter their search portal, which allows you to then conduct a search for your particular question. So just like any web browser, you can type in your search in the search box, and then next to the search box, there's a drop-down menu, and I suggest that you click on Library Catalogue here, which will take you to a catalogue of resources, and then click the research button there. So in this example, in the search box, I've got mother tongue, and I'm looking at the library catalogue. Okay, so it takes you to a bank of resources that it finds, very much like a Google search. And just by clicking on your first resource, a box will appear telling you a little bit more about that resource, who the author is, when it was published, but also it goes on to tell you where this resource is. So for instance, this resource is a paper-based resource, and the library has one copy. So if you were to physically visit the IOE library in Russell Square, you can get that one copy. And there's a reserve button here should you wish to reserve it and then go and pick it up. For those of us that are UK-based, that Ben and I, we both have a library card, and you're welcome to borrow that at any time. There's also here beside this globe, you will see that there's a button that says show me available items on floor plan. So if you are to visit the library, you can see a floor plan of exactly where that resource is located within the IOE library. So when you get there, you're not walking around, because the library is on several floors. Some of the resources are web-based and are available electronically. So for our Doha colleagues, you will be able to access these, or some of them anyway. And this is where you can see whether they're electronic. There's a little button that says IOE find it, and then there's a link, and by clicking on that link it'll take you to the electronic version. However, at the present time we do not have a login to access the electronic versions, and we are waiting on the IOE to give us this. As soon as we have it, we will share it, so please bear with us. Now, if you wanted to modify your search at any time, you can either click on the Go Back button in this menu, or create a new search, which is right above it. And that will allow you to create another search, or by clicking on full screen here to modify your search. What the full screen allows you to do is to use various variables for your search, therefore condensing the number of results that you get back and making the search a lot more relevant to your exact requirement. So it's worth considering using that format. There is a YouTube video that shows exactly how the IOE library catalogue works. And again, I will share this link with you when I send you this checkout survey. But I do recommend that you, if you get the opportunity and you are keen to use the IOE library, then please watch this video. It's about 6.5 minutes long, but it is worth it. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. And then just as a couple more notes, you will have access, and all of our teachers in the ACES International Schools have access to this library through us. So whether you're doing a sim project or whether a couple of weeks after the course is done, you just want to look up some information, you want to use the IOE web search and library, everyone has access to it, not just people who are on the course and not just people who are involved in sim projects. This is something that we just recently have gotten access to, so as Latifa said, we're still trying to ourselves improve it so that it's easier for people to access, and that individual access code that you need at the end to access the electronic versions of things, that in the school, that would be your student code, and we just need to figure out what code we need to use in order to get those, because it's our understanding that any of us can have access to those electronic online pieces. Another important thing I just wanted to point out again is at the front of Latifa's presentation, she talked about some of the other open access sources, and those are always really good. They're a little bit more challenging because, of course, each of those open access sources has its own kind of small collection of material, and you do need to search each of those individually if you're going to use those to try to find additional material. In addition to those, I know that in the course guide that we sent you, there were several journals listed which are open access and free access. So again, even though it means looking through each of those journals using their search tools, you do know that when you find something in there that you will be able to download it and read it completely for free. So again, those things are all really useful things to know about. I did want to now just talk a little bit about ERIC, and ERIC is something that you may have used before. This is a clearinghouse of literature related to education. And what we're going to do is we're simply going to show you a short 5-minute video on how to use ERIC. And again, all of this is being archived, so you can go back and look at it at a later time to refresh your memory. Yep, sorry, down here. And then hover and change screens.
Looking for education research? ERIC has over 1.5 million records of journal articles, reports, and books related to the field of education, including many peer-reviewed and full-text materials. ERIC is a free resource funded by the U.S. Department of Education's Institute of Education Sciences. The search engine at eric.ed.gov uses powerful and intuitive discovery tools to deliver relevant, recent content without the need for complicated searches. The easy-to-use search returns quality matches for your terms across a set of key ERIC fields, including title, author, source, abstract, and descriptors from the ERIC thesaurus. The results will include all records with your search terms or their variants in the key fields. For example, if you search for the term read, you will also pick up records that include reading, reads, and readers. You can get relevant results with a simple search. Rather than using Boolean operators such as and or, try putting multiple terms in a simple string. ERIC combines terms in a way that reduces the need for quotation marks or advanced search logic. Search results are sorted based on the most relevant matches. In this example, the search results are timely, and the search terms appear in the titles, descriptors, and abstracts. Check the box Peer-Reviewed Only to retrieve only peer-reviewed journal articles and peer-reviewed non-journal materials from the Institute of Education Sciences. To see only records with full text, check the box for full text available on ERIC. You'll find limiters on the left side of the results page to help narrow your findings within the most frequently searched fields in ERIC. The number to the right of each limiter represents the number of matching records in your results. For example, there are 6 peer-reviewed full-text records from the National Center for Special Education Research in the results from this search. You may add multiple limiters to your search criteria. While the majority of research needs can be easily accomplished with a simple ERIC search, there are some cases when a direct field search is useful. One example is when you're looking for records by an author with a last name like Young, which is also a common term in education. If you search for technology, Young, you'll get records on technology for young students as well as records by authors named Young. A field search by author, however, using the format technology, author, Young, will return only records by authors or co-authors named Young, who wrote journal articles, reports, or books about technology. Note, however, that you can typically obtain better results by not limiting your searches to specific fields. If, for example, you are searching for author Ruth Curran Neald's work on high school dropouts, searching with author Ruth Neald and descriptor dropout produces 4 results. However, the basic search, Ruth Neald dropout, yields the same 4 articles, as well as 3 additional articles that are relevant to your search. These additional results mention Ruth Curran Neald's related work in the abstract, but aren't retrieved when the search is limited to the author field. The new results include a summary of research on dropouts that features her work, a book in which she wrote a chapter, and a reference to a companion research report that she co-authored. Using ERIC's powerful and intuitive search engine will allow you to easily and productively search the 1.5 million education-related materials available at eric.ed.gov, your free online path to relevant recent content without the need for complicated searches. For questions or to provide feedback, contact the ERIC Help Desk via email or phone. For more from ERIC, visit us on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube.
Just as a really quick follow-up to that video, which I think was pretty self-explanatory, one of the things to keep in mind is that if you are if you're trying to find only things that you can download for free, that's when you would need to click on that full text available from ERIC button up on the top. If you don't click on that, you may find additional items, but some of those items may require purchase. If you were involved in a SIM project, purchasing those articles as part of your literature review would be part of your budget. But if you're just kind of doing things on your own or as part of the course, if you opted to acquire those articles that have a cost associated with them, you'd need to do that on your own. The other two quick things, she talked about using the word author with the semicolon and descriptor with the semicolon in order to limit or refine your search. And some of you may be accustomed to working in Google and maybe even in Google Scholar, where there are similar other kinds of ways that you can refine the search. With each of these search engines, the techniques are going to be a little bit different. So again, it's good to know those tips for using ERIC. Those of you who use Google or Google Scholar know that if you're trying to find something very, very specific within Google, that you often, and if it's a title or if it's a topic, if you put those within double quotes, it will actually, instead of searching each of the words independently, it will search a string of words or even a single word more specifically. When you're in Google, if, for example, you want to exclude all of the entries that are blogs, all that you need to do at the end of your thing is space and do -blogs, and it will not show you any blogs. One of the things as you begin looking for literature around educational topics is that you will find there's been a proliferation of blogs around current topics, and oftentimes it's difficult to wade through the number that come up because they do tend to come up very high in the list of the Google searches. If you're using a word and you don't know if it's the right word, or if you are interested in actually searching words that are synonyms of the word that you're using, if you put the tilde symbol, which is the little squiggle mark in front of the word you're looking for, it will show you it'll look up not only the word you put in, but similar words as well. Those are just a few of kind of the Google hints. I'm not going to show you how to use Google Scholar, but Google Scholar is, again, one of the things that you can find tutorials for on YouTube and other places. It works very, very similarly to Google, just a typical search engine. So again, we just wanted to show you 3 different search engines that you could use for finding academic journals. We're going to switch gears a little bit now and then come back to these search engines in just a moment. But I want to now draw your attention to the case study that you read in preparation for today. With this particular case study, we only asked you to look at pages 2 and 3, and specifically, I was hoping that you would pay close attention to not only the kind of the introduction on page 2, but the section on the theoretical framework. And so, to kind of get this next session of our webinar started, I was hoping that you could raise your hand and just kind of talk about what you think the topic was that this researcher was investigating. So again, once you raise your hand, Latifa will unmute your microphone and you will be able to speak. So what was the researcher's topic?
We hope we haven't put you to sleep through all this talk about search databases. Ah, Denise.
Denise.
Hi, Denise.
Okay, hi. I'll give it a try. Well, she was interested in figuring out how the students, how she went about after initially, because she had, it seemed to me, she had this reading time that she met with some while others were doing other activities, and for specifically in pairs or in smaller groups, she wanted to figure out whether they were using, what types of strategies the students were using to choose the books they were reading, to choose the partners they were, I guess, meeting up with, to see whether they were doing it in their best interest and learning from it.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think that's exactly what she was looking for. Really broadly, some of her topics had to do with reading comprehension, with strategies for reading, as you mentioned, but also specifically, we want to keep in mind that she was looking for things for third grade students. I think that in the front, that this author talked about the fact that she taught other grade levels before, but she hadn't had experience with grade 3, and she really saw them as a completely different group of learners than what she'd experienced before. So Denise, right. Thank you for that. I want to now take, what was just a really quick couple words about this article and flip it around and give you a task that has to do with finding articles in the research. And one of the first things that you need in order to do a search is that you need to have keywords. And if you would please, in your chat box, if you go ahead and type in what you would suggest some of the keywords are that you would use if you were trying to find information about these topics. So what are the terms we could use to help the researcher find additional articles? And again, go ahead and type those right into your chat box, please. So Tom says reading comprehension, partnered reading from D, third grade reading strategies from Denise.
Peer tutoring, reading.
Instructional strategies in reading from Kelly, cooperative learning from Gabby, collaborative planning from Shabana. Those are all great, and I see that what most of you have done is use strings of words. And of course, you know that the way that most of these search engines will work, they'll look for articles or pieces of information that have either one or both of those words in them. One of the other things that I would throw out here is that that there are some words that you could actually put onto a lot of these pairs of words or strings of words that will expand the search a little bit and perhaps bring in some other things. So you could, for example, put in cooperative learning strategies on the end of that. And again, that may take you in some different directions. You could look at reading comprehension and put the word continuum on the end, because that'll, again, take you to a whole series of different pieces. You could look at literature reviews of primary reading comprehension programs. One of the really useful things to do at the start of a literature review is actually look for literature reviews that have already been done on your topic. Because those things will do a couple of things. They will show you how other people have structured a literature review around a similar topic. The bibliographies at the backs of those literature reviews will also give you a lot of really good information in terms of focusing your literature research. Sometimes if a literature review is 5 years, 6 years, 7 years out of date, you may look at some of the authors at the end and see if they've actually published any more recent information. Typically, as you know, researchers will have kind of a specialty area that they do their research on, and so a lot of their research papers will be related. All right, we're going to give you a little task right now, and we're going to give you about 10 to 15 minutes to complete it. What we would like you to do is to pull up another screen on your computer, on your web browser, and to go to ERIC, which is eric.ed.gov. And we would like you to find one article that's related to this case study that we've just talked about really briefly. You can use either the keyword that you put into the chat box, or you can use a different keyword if you'd like, a different search word. And as soon as you find an article, what we would like you to do is type the name of that article into the chat box. And that's how we'll know that you've completed the task, because we'll watch that chat box to see the names of those articles going in. So again, open a screen on your web browser. eric.ed.gov is the address. Go ahead and have a go at actually doing a search and find any article related to the topics that we covered that were covered in the case study. If you need help, if you have a question, please raise your hand.
Hi, it's me. Most people have submitted something, and it all looks very good, by the way. We're just waiting on a couple more, so if you could just bear with us. Thank you.
All right, we're back, guys. And actually, you accomplished that task really quickly today, so thank you all very much. Just as a reminder, I know that all of you know this, but each of our schools employs really very capable librarians. And one of the things that they're there for is to help students as well as you do these kinds of searches. So if you feel that you have any questions, or if you're interested in knowing about other online databases that might be available to you, please ask your campus librarian. One of our campuses, or all of our campuses, have been considering a membership in EBSCO, which is the same online database that is used by most big universities. And so it very well could be that within the next couple of months that we actually have access to a lot more resources that we've had in the past. But again, check with your school librarian if you want to see what other databases you might have available to you. Well, now that you know, you probably knew, you may have known already, but now that you've actually demonstrated to us that you can find articles that focus on your research topic, this week we actually asked you not to work on the learning logs until after the session, although some of you may have gone ahead and you may have those done already. And so one of the things we're asking you to do in Learning Log 3.1 is to write an APA style citation for each article that you have found and to record that information on your learning log. We do want you to have practice using APA style to do that. And when you do that, of course, you can use the database of your choice to do that. So whatever database you're most comfortable with, if that is Google Scholar or ERIC, or if you want to have a go at the IOE database, or if you want to use another database that your school can provide for you. So that is Learning Log 3.1. Learning Log 3.2 is an optional learning log, and you only need to complete Learning Log 3.2 if you need to revise your original research question. Again, because we want you to have a working question as you go through the course, this is just an opportunity to revise it based on some of the things that you might be finding in the literature. And again, this is part of the recursive process. It's not uncommon at all to start with a research question, to feel that, and fairly confident that you have the research question exactly right. And then you start looking at the literature and you begin to reframe the question slightly or reframe it significantly. either way, that's a perfectly acceptable part of the action research process. And again, if you need to revise your original research question, please do that using Learning Log 3.2, because we will come back to that research question in future sessions. So it's good to have it actually recorded on paper. This has been a rather short session today compared to some that we've had in the past. We always say that the sessions can be up to 90 minutes. But before we end today, I wanted to note just if you have any questions at this point, and your questions could have to do with anything that we've covered in session 1, 2, or 3. So if you have a question, can you please raise your hand? If it's a question that we can answer quickly, we will answer it live. If it's a question that we need to do a bit more research on to be able to answer it accurately, we will be in contact with you after the course and post a response. So again, if you have any questions about things that we've covered or talked about, or things that might be coming up, please go ahead and raise your hand.
Denise, you've got your hand raised. Is that from before?
That's from before, I think. So let's go to Shabana first. And so let's go to Shabana first.
Okay. Hi, Shabana. Hi, Shabana.
Hi, Latifa. My question is, if I actually, to be honest, I wasn't able to do my homework this week because of loads and loads of work at school. I've been busy with my weekends, and the coming weekend is also hectic for me. I'm taking my students for the World Scholar Cup, so I'm going to be out from 8 in the morning to 6:30. So I'm really now being honest with my homework with this session. So in that case, do I get some extra time to go through and make justice for my PT course?
Yep. Shabana, as it turns out, because of the long spring break here in the UK, I know that you guys in Doha only have a week. We will be suspending the course for that 2-week period of time. We are going to be giving you a small task to do over that time, which is about the same size task as you would have in between other sessions. So please come to session 4 next week, but then there'll be a 2-week period before session 5 starts up again. So please use that time however you need to in order to feel confident that you're caught up with us. And again, if you need any help in doing that, just contact us during that time.
That's lovely. I think that would definitely, I'll be having enough time to catch up with whatever I missed.
Great.
Thank you so
very
much.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question at this point? And please do remember that you can, we have a question from Dee.
Hi, Dee.
Hi, Dee. Yeah, it's to do with, I'd like to put in a proposal for next year with the deadline on the 15th of April. My original thinking had been that I would pick a small classroom-based issue that I would like to look at through this course, through the study course. But in looking at the amount of research and so on involved, I'm now thinking that perhaps I'd be better off actually flipping back to the bigger picture that I would like to look at for next year. So I suppose I'm just asking, is there anything wrong that you can think of with doing that, or am I doing myself a disservice in doing that, or am I reaching for the stars a bit too much too soon?
That's a really good question, and I think we're getting a little bit of feedback, so we're going to turn off this microphone while we respond. Dee, that's a terrific question, and I think that probably it's a question that you need to answer yourself. I mean, one of the biggest challenges if you were going to put in a SIM proposal and work on a SIM project is actually making sure that you've done something that is of the appropriate scale that you can implement the project and keep to a timeline that you will set for yourself. So the scope of the project in terms of whether it involves a classroom or whether it's looking at a bigger picture really is only limited by the amount of time that you think that you have to put into it, or the project team that you think that you can assemble to help you support that. Our SIM projects are a whole range of sizes. There's no one rule for what makes the best size SIM project. So again, it will depend mostly on the resources that you think that you can bring to bear on the project, and taking on something that you feel that you can accomplish in that amount of time. And again, we're happy to meet with you or with other people on the course. Anyone who's interested in submitting a proposal for next year's SIM projects, we actually encourage you to make an appointment and speak with us before submitting a proposal, because we're here to help you put a proposal together that has the best chance of moving forward with the heads of school. So, Dee, thank you for your question, and thank you for reminding me to fund that process that's coming up.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, that's the same one. Yeah.
Hi, Shabana. Do you have another question, or is your hand still up?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't click anything.
It's okay.
So go ahead.
Okay, well, if there's no more questions, I'll just move on.
Yeah, and do remember that you can contact us with questions at any time, and whether it's a quick email question, or if you want to have a quick Skype, or if you want to come down for a face-to-face if you're in a UK campus, please let us know.
Okay, so as we come to the end of this session, just to let you know that there will be a checkout survey, which I will email to you straight after we finish tonight. So if you could complete this the survey and then email me back, and then I will send you the information for next week's session. So if you could do that as soon as possible, then it'll help us all. And to remind you that there is a learning log 3.3 as well. So if you want to record your learning points from this session for your own records, then please do that. We won't be asking to look at these. They are for your own records, but it is a good way of sort of learning and putting down what you have learned and for your own information. And finally, thank you for joining us.
Yeah. I mentioned a moment ago in response to that question that session 4, which is a week from today, following session 4, we will have a 2-week break while the UK campuses are away on their spring break. So we will have a little bit of time in between. I did want to mention, though, that the learning logs for session 4 are learning logs that are best to do in preparation for the session. So again, I appreciate that everyone has a very, very busy schedule, that you may need to work out a different schedule for yourself in order to work through the tasks. But to the extent possible, please try to complete the learning log from today. If you didn't do it before the session, it wasn't required before the session, but as a follow-up, complete that learning log 3.2, and there's learning log 4.1 for next week. So thank you all very much for your participation.
Just to say that although there is a 2-week break between session 4 and session 5 will begin on the first Tuesday after spring break, which will be the 14th of April. But the resources for session 5 will be issued next week prior to the spring break, so you will have them in advance, not on the Monday when you return. Okay. I hope that makes you all feel better.
And again, as a reminder, a recording of this program will be available in the archive, as well as a recording of the chat thread. Again, thank you all very much for joining us this week. We look forward to seeing you all next week.
Thank you.